Today we're looking at 3 verses near the end of Luke's gospel where Luke uses very specific details in order to communicate a point. And it's after the resurrection, after the Emmaus Road encounter with Jesus and a few of his followers, and it's just before the ascension where Jesus appears to his disciples. And to set the context, let's read Luke chapter 24, verses 36 and 37. This is from the ESV. As they were talking about these things, Jesus himself stood among them and said to them, "Peace to you." But they were startled and frightened and thought they saw a spirit. So it's critically important for the story that we're looking at that they thought they saw a spirit, pneuma. How many formerly dead people have you seen? I would posit that it is very, very close to 0, right? Let's move on and look at verses 38 and 40. And he said to them, "Why are you troubled, and why do doubts arise in your hearts? See my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Touch me and see. For a spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see that I have." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. So Jesus says, spirits don't have flesh and bones, and I'm opening it up to you to examine me and determine for yourself. This is very similar to the doubting Thomas story, right? Unless I should examine his hands, put my finger in the holes that the nails made, I would never believe, right? So this leads us to our topic today. He appears to them, they are shocked and frightened, and they assume that this is an apparition, this is a spirit who has appeared to them. And that brings us to verses 41, 42, and 43. We're going to pick those apart and translate them together, and let us begin. Eti de apistunton auton, apotes karas, kai thalmadzanton apen autois. So there's a mouthful here in the first part of verse 41. And I want to start with the last 2 words. Apen autois. He said to them. The he is Jesus and the them are the disciples. And this could be its own sentence. If we wanted to, we could add the second word in. But he said to them. That would be a complete sentence, which brings us to the rest of it, which is a long and involved genitive absolute. What is a genitive absolute? We've talked about it many times in the past. It's a phrase in the genitive that is absolute by virtue of meaning you could take it out of the sentence and it would still be a sentence. It gives us some background information or some filler information around the main sentence and what's happening. So what does it say here? Eti de, but still. So still is important because still has temporal connotations. And then we have our two participles in the genitive. Apistunton, unbelieving, right? It's a alpha privative of pistuo, of I believe. Here it's while still unbelieving. Who's unbelieving? Auton, them. So in a genitive absolute, the pronoun here in the genitive is the subject of both of the participles. But while they were still unbelieving, kai thalmadzanton, and marveling or wondering, apotes karas, from the joy. So they're struck with joy. Why? Because they see Jesus, who they saw die and who they know has died, and they've heard reports that he's not dead, but it's almost impossible to believe because they saw him crucified, and they've never seen anybody come back from the dead before. And so here we're told that while they were still unbelieving and marveling or wondering, he spoke to them. He said something to them. So one last thing on these genitives absolute. When we have them, if the participles are in the present tense, it tends to show contemporaneous time with the main verb. What's the main verb? Apen. He said, he spoke. And when did this thing happen? While they were still unbelieving and marveling. Had the participles been in the aorist tense, simple past, it would be after they were unbelieving and marveling, he spoke to them. But because they're in the present tense, this is generally true with genitives absolute, that it's showing contemporaneous time to the main verb. But while they were still unbelieving and marveling, he said to them, let's look at what he said to them. Ekete ti brosimon enthade. So ekete. Now notice at the end we have what in English is a semicolon, but in Greek it is the question mark. So this is a question. So ekete, you have, but because it's a question, what do you have? T, now this would either be just what, or it would be showing an indefiniteness. Do you have anything, or what do you have? Brosimon, an edible thing, something to eat, foodstuff. Not specific, a generic term for food. Enthade, here. So what eatable thing do you have here? Notice that after when he responds to their disbelief and wonder, it's not a negative thing because we're told it's from joy. They're joyful that they see him, but it's like, this is too good to be true. So what does he say to them? He says to them, what food do you have available right here and now? Why does that matter? Because it's not something staged. It's not food that he brought with him. He doesn't say, do you have a Dorito? I'm looking for a Dorito. He doesn't have anything specific in mind. Any food that they might have will do. And because they have it, they know that it's not a setup. It's not something that he's doing as a trick. It's not the facsimile or similitude of him eating something. It's food that they already have when and where, and thade, here. He doesn't say, hey, do me a favor, run out and get me this. There's no need for that. What food do you currently have right here and now? Do you have any food here and now in this place? The question is immediate because it's here and it's while they're still experiencing this unbelief and marveling from the joy of seeing someone they knew had died, and that is a great service for the impact of what happens next. Let's look at their response. Hoide epidokon auto ichthuos optu meros. So hoide and they, epidokon, gave, this comes from epididomi. Epididomi is to put something on something or in something. It's to place something. And so it's frequently translated to hand over, right? So I take in my hand a thing and I give it to you. I've handed it over to you. So, and they handed over auto to him. These three words are fantastic. Ichthuos optu meros. Ichthuos, a fish. What kind of fish? Optu, a grilled or roasted fish. So not a raw fish, not not a boiled fish, not a dried fish, a grilled or roasted fish, meros, a part or a piece. So he says, what food do you have? Do you have any kind of food available right here and now? And they had food. What kind of food? Fish. What kind of fish? Roasted or grilled fish. How much fish? Is it a whole fish? Is it a little fish? Is it several fish? No, it's a piece or a part of fish. Look at how specific the detail is. And what did they do with a piece or a part of grilled or roasted fish? Epidokon, they put it in his hand. Earlier, they said they were afraid. We're told they were afraid because they thought he was a spirit. And what did he say? He said, look at my hands and my feet. Look at the marks on me. Spirits don't have what? Flesh and bones. Epididomi, epidokan, they placed in his hand a part or a piece of grilled or roasted fish. It is a corporeal transaction of flesh from hand to hand. It's spectacularly detailed that shows that this is a human bodily corporeal interaction involving flesh and bones. Right? Pretty amazing stuff. They've participated with him in a physical interaction. Let's look at the last verse we're looking at today, verse 43. Kai labon enopion auton ephagen. So kai and labon is a aorist participle from lambano. After receiving or taking, and we'll supply it, we go to the end, ephagen, he ate. So he ate what? He ate it, the piece of fish, roasted or grilled, that they gave him. Enopion auton. So enopion is before or in the presence, auton of them. So after receiving it, he ate it before them in their presence. He didn't duck outside and come back and say, that was delicious. He didn't turn away from them and hide. In their presence, he ate it. What did he eat? He ate a piece of fish. What kind of fish? Grilled or roasted fish. Where did it come from? It came from them. They already had it there. They know it was real fish. It's not a trick. How did he get the fish? They handed it over to him and put it in his own hand. He took the fish from them that they already had, and in their presence, he ate it. Flesh and blood doesn't have, spirits don't have flesh and bones, and spirits don't eat the food that you put in their hand because their hands are non-corporeal. Jesus took the fish from them, very specific fish that they already had there with them, and ate it in their presence. Why is all this important? They knew what they had. They knew what they had given him. They knew that they put it in his hand. They saw him take it. They saw him eat it in their presence. So now they have their own experience, and they can say with equal certitude as they had that they saw him die, that this isn't an apparition, a ghost, a spirit. He's flesh and blood. He didn't do a parlor trick in front of them, because it was their fish. They knew all the details of it and they handed it over. The resurrection is real. It's not a delusion. It's not wishful thinking. It's not mass hypnosis. And Luke uses these very, very specific details, this very descriptive telling of the story, to show how Jesus demonstrated to them that they didn't have to be afraid, that they didn't have to be uncertain, that they didn't have to wonder if this was real, if this was too good to be true, that they could wholly embrace the joy that they were feeling, but that they were questioning in themselves, because lo and behold, here he was in the flesh with real bones, eating the food that they eat in their presence so that they could see it. Through nuance and through detail, the fear of a spirit Jesus, not a real Jesus, an apparition, a ghost, a facsimile or a similitude of Jesus is assuaged. That's the magnificence of the detail of those three little verses. And Luke is brilliant to record it that way, and it's very persuasive. It's a lot like the story of Doubting Thomas, right? If I put my fingers in there, then I'll know. It's a lot like in John 21, when Jesus says, what have you guys got to eat? And then he sends them out to fish and pull in a boatload of fish. And there's proofs of who he is that he shows them. So they say, this vibrates with me. I get this. This makes sense to me. And as a reader, noble Theophilus gets Luke's account and says, wow, look how detailed this is. Not a trick, not food from somewhere else. He doesn't pull something out of his pocket and pop it in his mouth. It's their fish. It's a part of a fish. It's grilled or roasted fish that was already there and that they put in his hand. Amazing detail, amazing story. Hope it was good for you. It's always great for me to read that little story. I love the richness of the telling. And I hope you do too. And if you do, please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, share with your neighbors, leave me feedback in the comments, hit the little notification dinger so you know when there's new content. And until next time, Charis Kairene Humin, grace and peace to you.